Damn, Eli, that's crazy.
Smooth, man. How about something past now? I been in my bag now. I just got my back in. Baby, I can brag now. She didn't want me back then. I could blow it back out. Had to trade them feelings in.
Which shoe is better to hoop in, the Nike Fly.by Mid 3 or the Fly.by Mid 2? So today we're going to be putting these two Fly.by models head to head to see how they compare. But really quick, if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. So starting off with the box and the price, there really isn't much to talk about with the box design. As you can see here, the Fly.by Mid 3 is going to get the OG Nike box look, and I guess it's really no surprise that the Fly.by 2 has the same exact setup. But you know, as for pricing, that is the main thing to love about these shoes. The Nike Fly.by Mid shoe line is going to be the cheapest basketball shoe that Nike offers at only $65 for retail. So I mean, if nothing else, these are a very budget friendly shoe.
I came back now, getting on this guap. I don't think I better pass now. Paper so long.
So taking a quick look at the appearance for these, I mean, it really is going to be a quick look because there's just not a lot going on as far as like details within these shoes. But the Fly.by Mid 2 is probably going to be the simpler design, but I do like the speckled midsole that these get. You also have an overlay design on the upper that kind of outlines that Nike swoosh. Not a bad look there at all. But yeah, I mean, around the rest of the shoe, from the side, the back, there's just, you know, not a ton going on. And that's totally fine, kind of expected for like Nike's cheapest basketball shoes out there. But looking at the Fly.by Mid 3 now, I'm actually a fan of the changes that were made from the appearance between these two models. So the first thing these reminded me of was like the Nike Giannis Immortality shoe. I think there's just a lot of similarities between this shoe and that one right there. But I mean, yeah, I really do think these came out clean. The midsole has kind of a nice look to it with more of a design kind of built in. You have that same kind of design built into like the upper pattern. So just a little bit more to look at compared to the Fly.by 2s. Not by a lot though. They do lose me a little bit on the tongue for the 3s though. I mean, I'm just not sure why they gave them that little red chunk. It kind of does tie into the sock liner, but it looks a little bit weird whenever it's on your foot. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but I mean, you know, either way, this is going to be like, you know, cheaper shoes, not a lot going on for the designs. I mean, I still think the look is better on the 3s compared to the 2s, but I mean, that's not really what we're here to talk about. So let's see how these shoes hold up on the court.
I came back now, getting on this guap. I don't think I better pass now.
So now looking at more of the performance and the material side for these shoes, I'll start off with the cushioning first. So a little fair warning, these shoes are alike in a lot of ways, and you'll kind of see that start to play out starting right now. So the Nike Fly.by Mid 3 is going to be getting a Nike foam setup for the cushioning, and you know, these are supposed to give you a good on-court feel and off-court feel. And you know, I guess we can call them good if we want. It's definitely not great, but you know, you aren't going to get any of those like special Nike features like Cushlon, Phylon, Turbo, Air Zoom, you know, any of that whenever you're dealing with one of these shoes like this, because for the millionth time, it is Nike's cheapest basketball shoe, all the way down to $65. So, you know, pretty much everything is going to stay true about the Fly.by Mid 3 compared to the Fly.by Mid 2. They are going to get that same Nike foam setup. And then, I mean, the impact protection, it just isn't super ideal on these. They definitely aren't soft whenever you're coming down from like a jump shot or just like any jump in general, but I do think they feel about the same between these two models. I was expecting maybe some subtle differences, but as far as like the cushioning, I can't really feel anything up to this point.
I came back now, getting on this guap. I don't think I better pass now. Paper so long.
So checking out the materials, this is part of where Nike keeps the cost low by just not putting anything special into these models. The Fly.by Mid 3 is going to get an upper made from perforated leather and mesh, and that definitely helps keep these lightweight, and I always am a fan of that. I like to have more freedom of movement and just not feel like you're dragging around some cinder blocks on your feet whenever you're playing ball. But you know, with this being a cheaper shoe, it still doesn't affect the support in a major way. So I mean, your foot is laced in well, there's no heel slipping, the upper hasn't malfunctioned on me yet, and you know, I just don't really feel it move on step backs or any of those movements. So I mean, that was definitely nice. For the Fly.by Mid 2, you're going to have a slightly different upper with some textiles covering most of the shoe. And you know, you're also going to have some leather overlays on there too, but not premium leather, so don't get too excited. But I mean, these do have a no-sew overlay design to give you some added reinforcement. And just like the 3s, you know, it's nothing major, but they do hold their own whenever it comes to keeping your foot within that design. So I mean, for the most part, you get exactly what you would expect from these categories, but I just was glad there wasn't like any glaring issues as far as like the materials, and especially for the support. And then always keep in mind, these are going to be some of the lightest basketball shoes that you can even play in. I mean, the Fly.by Mid 3s only weigh 362 grams for a size 10.5, and then the 2s are right there around the same spot at 390 grams for the same size. So, I mean, that's something I really like whenever it comes to basketball shoes, just having something light to move around.
I came back now, getting on this guap, I don't think about the past now. Paper so long.
So to finish off with traction, these models actually aren't bad. The Fly.by Mid 3 has a wavy pattern that does play better than some other shoes that I've hooped in, especially ones that had a higher retail price. You do have a little bit of stickiness on this shoe to give you some solid traction aspects, and I'm just not sure how long it's going to last that way, but you know, pretty much similar to everything else, the Fly.by Mid 2s are just about the same. So you do have the same wavy idea. The lines are going to be a little bit closer together though, but like I was saying, the traction is honestly okay, and these even have a little bit of a squeak on the floor. So I mean, shoes that don't grip the floor obviously aren't going to squeak at all. So there's something here between these two models for the traction. I did at least like that. But to finish off with sizing, the Fly.by Mid 3s actually run a little bit big. I had some room left over at my toe. I'm not sure it's worth going half size down. That's just something I noticed, but pretty much true to size for the Fly.by 2s.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes.
So for the final ratings, looking at the appearance first, you know, both of these shoes are pretty basic, but I personally think the Fly.by Mid 3s do have more going on. Like I said, they kind of fall in line with that Giannis Immortality shoe look, so I am going to side with the 3s here. But for cushion, I can't really bring myself to go with anything other than a tie here. I mean, they played about the exact same, but I mean, get ready for some more ties to come raining in, because the materials, I am going to stay with that. I mean, both shoes are cheaper, and actually they are the cheapest, so there's nothing major added to either shoe line, so we're just going to stay with the tie there. As for the support, I mean, we're going to stick with it again. Both shoes play about the same. They feel about the same on those movements. But I don't just want to rattle off ties for every single performance section as if these are like the same shoe. Oh, yeah, I mean, they pretty much are. So we're going to stay with a tie again for the traction setup. So I do lean towards the 3s as far as the appearance, but as far as performance, I mean, I pretty much have to go with a dead tie between these shoes. You have a lot of the same stuff involved between the Fly.by 3 and the Fly.by 2 model. They aren't going to blow you away with anything necessarily to love, but I mean, for $65, they still are going to work for a basketball shoe. So if you're interested in buying one or both of these shoes and you want to support our channel, we do have an affiliate link in the description that just gives us a little bit of commission that goes back into reviewing more shoes. So, you know, feel free to check that out. But that wraps up this performance comparison. Until next review, I'm Landon from Shoeware. Peace.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes. All I'm focused on is